Hey everyone, thank you for joining me on Dishing with me, Heather D. And if you're looking for a delicious recipe for this holiday season, well, my red velvet cinnamon rolls topped with cream cheese frosting is going to be a definite crowd pleaser. You know I'm all about pleasing the crowd when it comes to delicious food. So, if you're looking for a twist on your traditional red velvet treats, well, these red velvet cinnamon rolls will be the one that you want to try to introduce. So stay tuned to see how I get these put together. Okay, so our recipe is going to start off with our cinnamon and pecans, which is what we're going to use later on in the recipe. I'm also going to get my sugar measured out. We have cream cheese, which I'm going to add powdered sugar to, which is going to go for the glaze. We have 1 egg, 1 stick of butter that we're going to use to mix for that combination of the cinnamon, sugar, and the pecans to go in the side of the cinnamon rolls. I have 3 1/4 cup of all-purpose unbleached flour, and I have 1/3 cup of 100% Hershey's cocoa powder. Now, if you want, you can use whatever cocoa powder you have on hand, but I'm using 100% the unsweetened cocoa powder. So that is 3 1/4 cups of flour and 1/3 cup of cocoa powder. You can use dark cocoa if you like. I'm using just regular cocoa powder. I have in here 2/3 cups of room temperature milk with 3 drops of red food coloring that is going to go inside of the mix to give it that red velvet flavor and color. And I have, that's also going to go in the mix, 3 tablespoons of room temperature butter. This is unsalted butter. And I also have a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla for a little extra flavor to these. And of course you need your yeast. I am using some quick rising yeast, and this is going to be added to the water of one cup of water, 110 degrees, and I'm going to add a tablespoon of sugar. And according to the package here, or according to this jar, if you're going to be using the jar, you can use 2 teaspoons and 1/4 of the yeast, as you see right here, which is approximately 1 package of active dry yeast. Since I'm going to be making a lot of breads and stuff this season, I figured I'll go ahead and just get the jar, which is a little easier for me, and I'd rather just measure it out. So that is what we're going to use, and we are going to get this all pieced together. I also added inside of my dry mixture a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, because there's no salt in any of my butters that is being used. So we are going to start out by getting our yeast activated, and then we're going to go from there. Okay, so I've added my 2 1/4 teaspoons of active yeast. I've added my 2/3 cups of water, and I also added 2 tablespoons of sugar. I'm going to let this sit and foam up. You want to make sure that you watch your water, because you don't want your water to be too warm where you'll burn your yeast. So we're going to let that sit and foam up, and I'm going to go over to my dough, my mixer, which has the dough hook, and we're going to get our egg going in there, and we're going to add our butter and our vanilla here, and we will be right back. Okay, so we're going to begin by adding our 1 egg to the mixer with my dough hook. And I'm also going to add the red milk. And we're going to get that going. While the egg, milk, and the red food coloring is mixing, you can see that my yeast has gotten nice and foamy. So now I'm about to add it to the mixture, and I'm just going to let that whisk. The vanilla and butter is going to be added a little bit toward the final process. And of course, you know, I gotta keep my soapy water. And I am now getting my flour and my cocoa powder together. And I'm going to slowly start incorporating it into the mixture. Now you see my dough is beginning to come together. Now I did add about 1/4 cup of flour on the side, just to have as backup in case this dough is still too wet. So we're going to wait for that to all come together, and we're going to see how it looks. Now, if you notice that your dough is starting to become a struggle in mixing, in your mixture, that means you may have to add a little bit more water. So I'm going to add just about a tablespoon more of water to loosen up the dough some. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my butter and vanilla and let that get all mixed up. But it's always better to add a little bit at a time, because you want to make sure not to add too much. When you see it loosened up, now we also still have that backup flour. We're just going to let this mix. And because my dough doesn't look quite red enough, I'm going to go ahead and add a couple more drops of red food coloring. And then just go and let that mix all together. Sometimes you have to play with your dough to make sure you get the right consistency in order for it to be at the nice softball stage type. And we'll be right back. After adding the water, and I did add that remainder portion of the flour, this is pretty much the consistency that I was going for. It's softer, easier to maneuver around in the mixture. And we're going to let this beat and knead for about a good 8 minutes. After about 8 minutes of it kneading in my stand mixer, which you can also, if you don't have a stand mixer, feel free to do it by hand. Your dough should be nice and soft. And so now just going to pull it off of the dough hook. And I'm going to let it sit in my bowl. And we're going to put it in a warm area, cover this up, and let this rise for about 45 minutes. So what I did is, once I formed it into a ball, I covered it with a warm, damp paper towel. And then I'm also going to cover it with a towel, and it's going to be placed by my stove, which I have preheating at 350. And because I have another baking recipe or dish I need to do, this is just some water I have steaming due to the winter months. But I'm going to let this sit in this warm area, covered, and we're going to let this rise for 45 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to begin by cutting up some pecans. Now, of course, you can add as little or as much pecans as you like, or if you have a nut allergy, omit the pecans altogether. I'm just sorting them because I like to look for all the little imperfection ones and go for the pretty ones only. If they're a little too dark for my liking, I usually toss them to the side. And I am going to cut these babies up, place them inside of here. And we are going to go from there. We are also going to mix up our 1 stick of butter with some cinnamon inside of another bowl. And that way that'll be all set as well for us to roll our dough out. And then we'll be ready to get this baby assembled. Once your pecans have been chopped to your liking, I'm just going to add some cinnamon on here. I'm going to have the pecans coated with cinnamon as well as the butter. So that way there's cinnamon taste all the way through. Just going to give these a toss, and then we're going to get a bowl, and I'm going to mix up my cinnamon, brown sugar, and butter for the coating of the layer for the cinnamon rolls. Okay, so I have my butter. I have 1 stick of butter as well as 1 tablespoon. And I am going to add about a good 3 heaping spoons of this brown sugar to this butter. You can add as little or as much as you like. Maybe a little bit more. So you can add as much as you like. I did 3.5 approximately. And now to add the cinnamon. We want these cinnamon rolls to have a nice cinnamony taste. So I'm just going to shake on. That's about, I'll say 2 tablespoons or 1.5 tablespoons. Yeah, about 1.5 tablespoons of the cinnamon. And I'm just going to mash this all together, and we're going to spread this onto the dough once it is finished rising. And that way, that step is all complete, and all we have to do is put together our cream cheese frosting. So, we'll be right back. Your brown sugar, butter, and cinnamon spread should look something like this. Almost like a peanut buttery type texture, grainy. And of course we have our chopped pecans that are coated in a little bit of cinnamon. And if you like, for that extra nutty taste for your cinnamon rolls with the pecans, you can lightly toast them in your skillet on a medium heat for about 2 or 3 minutes, and that'll actually bring that nutty flavor from your pecans. So that is a tip that you can probably try. I'm going to put these to the side now, and we are going to work on our frosting for this cinnamon rolls. And I'm just using 4 ounces of cream cheese, and this is going to get mixed with some powdered sugar and a pinch of vanilla. Okay, so we have our 4 ounces of cream cheese. I'm now adding 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And now I'm going to add my powdered sugar. Now, of course, I'm just eyeballing it. That's 4 ounces, so I'm going to add about a cup of powdered sugar, 1.5 cups. And of course, this is according to how sweet you like yours. And while I pull out a mixer, I'm just going to whisk it. And of course, this cream cheese is at room temperature. I'm going to add a little bit of half and half to loosen this up as well. So I'll be right back. Okay, 2 tablespoons of half and half. And I'm just going to whisk this all together until it's smooth and creamy. This is the consistency that we want our frosting to be. So we're going to let this sit to the side and let the dough finish rising. Okay, so once your dough has risen, which I have forgot to show you and forgot to record, we're going to go ahead and put it on a flat surface. Have your rolling pin, and we want to sprinkle a little bit of flour on it. And it is very soft, as you can see, and spongy. But yeah, we want to get a little flour on it, and we are going to go ahead and get this baby rolled out into a nice rectangle. And if there's any dough left, maybe we'll see what we can do with it. Maybe make a donut or two. We'll see. So you don't want to apply pressure. You kind of just want the rolling pin to do all the work, because you want to make sure that you get it nice and even and it doesn't bounce back when it's time to go ahead and, you know, cut them into the circles that you need once it's rolled up. You want to get this dough kind of nice and even, about 1/4 of an inch thick. So we're going to continue rolling this out and we'll be right back. Okay, so as you can see, I have my dough rolled out. Now is the time we're going to get a pastry brush and we're going to add our cinnamon butter all over here. And once we add our cinnamon butter all over, then just like this, we want to cover as many areas of this dough as much as possible. And we are going to also sprinkle on our chopped pecans. So I'm just going to spread this on and we'll be right back. And this is what your roll should look like, fully covered with that brown sugar and cinnamon butter mixture. Now we're going to go ahead and just sprinkle on our pecans. And then I'm going to roll this baby up. You want to try to get as much of the pecans covered all over this baby. And like I said, if you want, you can omit this, because not everyone likes pecans in their cinnamon rolls. Some people like, like it plain. But because for me, the pecans taste good, especially when you have it on red velvet cake, topped on top of the cream cheese frosting. That's what I like to go by. So I'm just going to sprinkle and cover this, and then we're going to work on rolling it out. I mean, not rolling it out. Work on rolling it up and then cutting it. After you have spread your pecans all over your roll, now we are going to work on rolling this baby up. I did put a little bit of the pecans to the side because I plan to top a few of the cinnamon rolls up once I put them in the oven and they bake and they get the frosting on them. I do plan to sprinkle a little bit of the pecans on top of them. So just going to roll this up and then we are going to cut it. Your roll should look something like this once it's completed. It's nice and tight all the way to the end. And so now I'm going to cut it. I'm going to start in the middle using a serrated knife. And if you happen to have string, they said string works well, but a serrated knife, something like this, works better when you have the ridges. So I'm just going to start in the middle, and then I'm going to work my way out, and I'm going to do something like a saw pattern. And this is to keep the shape of the cinnamon roll, and then keep it from squishing up. You see, it didn't squish up. So I'm just going to go ahead and go all the way down, and not without touching and slicing my mat. And then it should look something like this. Once I pull it apart, sometimes you have to go a little bit further. And your cinnamon roll, ooh, come on, should look something like this. And then we're going to place these inside of a grease pan, and we're going to let them rise one more time for about 20 minutes and place them in the oven and bake at 350 for 20 minutes or until they are done and swole up nice and fat. Okay, they have been cut, placed inside grease pans. Now I'm going to cover them, let them rise, and then we'll place them in the oven and let them bake. After baking in the oven for 20 minutes, this is what they look like. Of course, these spread out a little bit more because they weren't as bunched or as close together as these were. So now, while they are nice and warm, this is where you want to start the whole icing process. Okay, you want to ice them while they come out of the oven. So we're gonna go by doing just like this. Look at that. Gonna ice them up all over. And we're gonna do each cinnamon roll that way. And after you frost your cinnamon rolls, this is what they look like. The red velvet cinnamon rolls. I have a few topped with extra pecans for that extra nuttiness. But this is what it looks like. Delicious. So, should we try one? Of course. Get one of these little sick ones here. This is what the bottom looks like, just in case. Look at that. Look at that. Delicious. Delicious. Gotta try it. Gotta try it. I know they fresh out the oven, but gotta try it. They're too beautiful not to try. Okay, so this video is going to be kind of quick because I got to get finished getting ready for work. But we're about to try one. And your family about to love these. So if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. Let me know if you want to try these delicious red velvet cinnamon rolls. Because this holiday season, this is going to be your #1 go-to. Especially for breakfast. It's so soft. Okay. Thank you for watching. God bless. And stay tuned for more recipes.